When we're sad, we need the relating. You're relating in the song. You need the reflection. You have to feel it.
Yes.
That's what happens when we bypass it.
Yeah.
Squish it down. It comes out somewhere else in our body.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast. This is your host, Natalie Facey, and I am excited to share this next episode with you because I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with a wonderful human being by the name of Shoshana Vogel. Shoshana Vogel is a classically trained vocal instructor and a guitarist. There is so much more to her background that I will share in a few moments, but I want to share how we reconnected. So she and I reconnected after meeting each other about 2 years ago. We reconnected a few weeks ago, just after I released the episode on the NICU survival guide. Now that felt really synchronistic because in that episode, I had shared that I sang to my baby as a way to support his healing, and that I had found research that music and singing to babies were things that were therapeutic for them. And I knew that Shoshana was a musician. I knew that her work did involve music. And so it really sparked this idea to have a conversation with her on how to use music as a form of healing. What she also shared with me was that the work that she currently does is actually using music and sound and play to help with the development of babies and kids' brains. So this was just perfect. So our conversation was really a collaboration that was sparked from that idea. You know, if music can be used for the healing of babies and children, then it can also be used for the healing of their parents, which means that it can also be used for the healing of parents or birth warriors who are grieving the loss of an infant, grieving the loss of a baby, or grieving the loss through infertility. And our interview really felt like this beautiful process of co-creation where we were both sharing our work. Our inner wisdom was just pouring out. We also shared how music and voice have been instrumental in our personal healing journeys. And Shoshana shared that this has actually been helpful in the healing of her clients. So this entire conversation was such a fun and juicy one. There were so many insights that were pouring out from both of us. And I truly hope that you enjoy it and that you get value from this episode. So without further ado, here is our interview.
Shoshana Vogel, you have an amazing background. This is the shortened version of it, but I'll also have you share more about your background when you start chatting. So where do we start? Okay, you're a native of Staten Island in New York.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your musicianship and movement background were fostered. You studied ethnomusicology at UC Berkeley and learned Ghanaian drumming, sang in the gospel choir, and furthered your classical guitar studies. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so you're also a classically trained vocal instructor and guitarist. In your graduate work at UCLA, you studied yoga, movement, ethnomusicology while helping students to develop their critical thinking skills in performance and critique. Your work now focuses on brain development of babies and children through music and play. Mm-hmm. And today, you'll be sharing with us your wisdom on how we can actually use music to further our own healing process. I am so excited to dive into this conversation because I know that there is a lot that you'll have to share. So let me pause here. And I guess my first question is like, how did your music career start?
Well, I was lucky enough to have family that are musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So my uncle was a Baroque musician and always played for us. So the
Wow.
bonding with him was very natural and from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it taught me a lot. There's also a lot of anxiety in my family, I would say,
Yeah.
coming from trauma histories that a lot of us have.
Yeah.
And so personally for me, it was very soothing to have the strings be there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's funny that that wasn't a linear path for me at all. I went and tried other things and performing and being an intellectual and studying politics and things. And that all informs what I'm doing now too.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to realize that the healing of music actually, the music and that bond that I had with my uncle and in my family actually facilitated my healing process that I needed later on, probably during and a little after doing political work. But it was so much a part of it that post a lot of Vipassana meditation and studying meditation, I started to work with babies and learned that when I was the most grounded, the most still, how plugged in they were. And it's been an incredible journey to put music in there and realize how important that was to my grounding, to their grounding, to our communication, and that it could also work with parents and new mothers.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me more about the work that you have been doing with babies.
Well, it's incredible, and I love talking about it. And I feel lucky to talk about it because oftentimes I've studied these things separately. So I worked with doulas and on the healing work and the brain development, and then studying as a musician and doing music with young children. They were separate, but the doula that I worked with allowed me to, she's wonderful too, she's in California, and she allowed me to have musical classes because I was already musical, and sensory stimulation is really what you want with babies. They need their visual stimulation, their audio stimulation, visual tracking, parent-child bonding, all of that is what their brains crave. And she was intuitive enough to know that each person should develop their expertise. So I brought in the music into my classes and they worked like a charm. Music was already there. She already knew that would help. Having music maybe at the end of class, maybe to soothe. It's why we do lullabies. Very intuitive, to soothe once we've stimulated the babies. And so it just grew from there. I had learned about the brains and that healing and the nervous system through her and through that work, and watched how integral music was and how it expanded almost everything else that we could do. So even when you're doing sensory stimulation, when you're exciting them, they work hand in hand together, which ended up making a lot of sense as well when our systems are excited, whether it's negatively excited, stressed out. That coming back down and a calming can work very well with big people, with the big person and the baby. And of course, the two things go together because that looping system is so critical. And the babies are sponges and they're so plugged into mom. So I really work on calming mom. And that education I love too, because we're kind of teaching them to take care of themselves. Mom needs to take care of herself, and baby, it's what baby wants,
What I'm envisioning is this circle with moms and babies, and you're playing music and showing mom how to engage with baby using music and movement.
Yes, it's exactly what it is, and it even literally looks like a circle. So nice because we all see each other. And this gives the children a scope. And it gives the mothers the support system of each other. So
what that's also making me think of, or something that you said earlier made me think of, when I work with my doula clients as they're in labor or as in preparation for labor, one thing that I usually tell them is that they should create 2 playlists. So one playlist is when they're in the earlier stages of labor and like, moving in their bodies. And then the other playlist is when they're ready to push. And that's kind of like the workout music. It's the music that you'd work out
Okay.
to because
Yes.
it responds very differently to something that's kind of like soft and soothing versus something that's active.
It's time to push. So you bring in percussion.
Yes. So
Amazing.
I know intuitively that works. So I've just told them you're going to need different types of music. So, one example that I've shared is imagine trying to work out to a love song. It just doesn't work.
Exactly.
You need something that's more active.
Yes. I imagine also the distinction is really helpful, right?
Yeah.
Because they're kind of ready when to be soothed and understand that, but it kind of triggers.
Right.
And all the other systems functioning the other way.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's what I would love to dive into with you. Obviously, you work with babies, but it's the brain, it's the human brain and how we respond as humans. So I'd love to know like what happens in the background and in our brains why we have the response that we have to music.
Well, it's interesting. Neuroscientists are probably a little better at that because there are little correlations to the cortexes and the different areas of the brain.
Yeah.
But it's it's interesting too because it's also the familiarity and the emotional connection that we have to music.
Yeah.
So it's like if we know a soothing song that we love, then it's also going to trigger a memory response, right? That is emotional. So, I love that song. So, your clients are making their own playlist. They're creating it. So it's their creativity of what they already love, and they're part of sculpting that. So they're going to have, they're going to put on there something that they know is going to soothe them or something that they know is going to energize them and get them ready to push. So there is that also that emotional connection to it and knowing, oh, this is my jam, or this is the love song that I fell in love to, or things like that, That's its own form of self-love, because you're creating this music for yourself, and music has that for us. It's gifts once we attach and connect emotionally to it.
Yeah,
It's there for us. It's
exactly.
kind of why we transport. It's like a song might remind you of the era that it came out.
Yeah,
and you might just be there instantly. It's not everything that we can understand on this plane, I think.
That's true. That's true. I think even looking into neuroscience, there's so much that is just being discovered.
Yeah.
And I feel very strongly that we look to science to find proof for what we already know intuitively. It's like we've had an experience with something and we just realize that somehow it works, somehow it like connects, and then the scientist goes and looks for the proof, like digs in deeper.
We might not fully understand.
Exactly, but we know the response that it's creating within our bodies.
Yes. What's an interesting correlation of that is kind of like teachers of kindergarten or nursery.
Yeah.
Even moms, you know that when you tell a child to do something and you use a speaking voice that has separations, sometimes they don't hear you. They might not even quite comprehend, but then you might put it in a song and you might sing it. We make little songs about finishing, cleaning up, they do all of that. We putting away song and that's because there are neural pathways in the brain that actually they click in.
Yeah.
It's soothing, and when it's sung, it goes in deeper.
Wow.
And when it's chopped up and spoken.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, nursery schools, and I teach at nursery school as well, and they, everything is sung there. It's almost, there's music for everything. And that's one of those things almost exactly like what you described, because we understand it on certain levels and certain levels we don't. We just know it works. We see it work. And people intuitively, even if they're not musicians or singers, sing to children. And children respond.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was reflecting before this conversation, and what you just said is reminding me of it. So after my loss, I created 3 different playlists,
Mhm.
and they're basically based on the emotional stages that I saw myself going through in the healing process.
Okay.
So my first music playlist was, I entitled it like "Let Me Be," meaning like leave me the heck alone. I'm just going to like be here in my cave right now.
Yeah.
And all of the songs were kind of like sad and slow. And I'm saying sad, not even for it to sound bad, but I was in a state of sadness. So I needed the songs that could, like the word you just used, like transport those emotions. I needed the songs that could like hold those emotions for me. And
Yeah.
then as I was moving out of that stage, the next playlist, I think was called like Finding Peace. So it was like the beginning of an opening, and those songs were still soft, but a bit more cheerful and a bit lighter.
Right.
And then the next playlist was like a lot more active.
Oh,
It's like Rise Again or something like that. But it was all following this, like, following my train of emotions. Like, I'm here, and then, like, okay, and then, I'm ready again.
right.
And some of those songs are even in another language, meaning I don't actually understand what the words are.
But you feel them.
I feel them, and the emotions that I'm getting from the song match my emotions. So I always like create these playlists when I'm in that emotional state. Like when I'm angry, that's the best time to create an angry playlist.
No, it's even like I love your inner wisdom as well.
Yeah.
Because of what you crafted. And it's like you have to, when we're sad, we need the relating. You're relating in the song. You need the reflection. You have to feel it.
Yes.
What happens when we bypass it?
Yeah.
Squish it down. It comes out somewhere else in our body, in an element of sickness, a tightness,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I love that because you allowed yourself the sad.
Yeah.
Sad with the song, so you're not alone.
Yeah.
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 And
The
then
emotion,
through it. That's brilliant.
exactly. The emotion needs to have space. It needs to be heard. So what I share a lot with the members in the community, I feel like it comes up every single week because there's so much of our healing that involves being with the emotions. So how I've described the emotions is they're kind of like messengers. So like fear might show up at my door, or optimism, or jealousy, or anger, and whatever shows up, I just need to like sit with it and see how I can move with it. Sometimes it's a dance and I need to like dance and move.
Yes.
Sometimes I need to like sit and have tea. Sometimes I need to journal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to like take a warm shower and listen to music. But it's like whatever shows up, how can I create space for it, knowing that it's a part of my healing?
That allowance too, it's almost like the respect for the feeling.
Yes.
And it makes me immediately think of Good Morning Heartache, Sit Down.
Oh, I don't know that, but I love those words.
Yeah.
Is that a song?
Yes. And of course, somebody that knew sadness so deeply, right?
Yeah.
But there's this sit down with it, be with it.
Yeah.
And I think that allowance of the feeling is part of the path to repair. Right? The sad, because ignoring it isn't going to do you any good.
Exactly.
Now, that does make me think about indulging in it as well. I like the pathway out as well.
Yeah.
And I often say that, and respect to indulging in it, and respect my elders and our elders that came before us with their sadness,
Yeah.
And Billie Holiday in particular.
Yeah.
She's a good metaphor for sad and processing it. And then, it's like that vibration that happens when you allow and you give it space and you give it time and you give it respect.
Exactly.
Because they're there for a reason, like you said, the guideposts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're there for a reason. And I think when we get to the other side of it, there are so many, we get the lessons and the blessings. something that has been coming up for me was this theme of integration, and how what we're going through right now is so very difficult. But once we get to a place of seeing it in another way, then we can integrate the lessons for ourselves. And so it never feels like, we've lost, or even if we've been wounded, we get to learn something to move forward. We get to learn something that builds our resilience and our strength in the future.
Yeah. I think also that cyclical, it's almost like the song can be a container for that.
Yes.
And repair a little bit, and maybe not on a conscious level. Then we get to come back.
Yeah.
And then maybe we're repairing a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think songs work on the subconscious level because it bypasses language.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that too, what you said about not knowing, but feeling, not knowing what they mean necessarily, and then it's the feeling that it elicits in you, which is the most important thing, because you are you. You are in your body, and you are working with spirit and with your guidance to figure out your body, figure out you. So it's almost even so respectful to honor what you feel. There is the songwriter, there is the writer of the song and the language and the meaning, but there's you.
Exactly.
And again, you're in your body, and your body is the one that's felt the loss and needs to do the repair work. So that circle, again, it always comes back to circles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what you shared, I think it was yesterday when you shared that it's so important to follow the intuition, because like a song might speak to you in a certain way, and even though you don't know why, it's still meaningful for you. So it's important to just like follow that intuitive guidance versus just dismiss it, because our brain usually looks for like reason. So share more about that. I do think that intuition is sort of like a gateway to healing. It like opens us up to something that we can't explain, but will eventually help us.
Well, I think it's its own conversation too, right? It's kind of like we allow the feeling to exist.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like that part of us that is conscious on the linear plane more, we can kind of go back and forth. We allow the feeling expands. We kind of swim in the murk of the feeling.
Yeah.
But we can kind of come back and forth and even do our own healing. It's like we know on a conscious level what it's doing, right? So you kind of go back and forth, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's funny, as I start to talk that way, I get a little dreamy and flowy too. Yeah. Because I've had a lot of time of being flowy, and in my own healing, I needed to ground, and music helped me to ground, and it still helps me to ground. But I'm also very, very airy. So even when I talk about it, I kind of am a musician in that way, and I want to float off into the feeling of it. Yeah. But the literal breathing and the grounding, it gives me that. Then the vibration in my body heals me, but also makes me more present. So I do that kind of conversation. And I'm healing every time I'm playing music or in that loop with people that are also healing. And our intuitive selves and communicative selves and more grounded selves are in communication too. Yeah. That makes sense. So that looping is happening interpersonally too. Yeah. The teacher with the facilitator, the baby with the mom, with the self, with the the feeling self. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Tell me about using music in your own healing process. What does that usually look like? Like, are you sitting down and writing? Are you sitting down and playing? Are you listening? What does that look like?
It's interesting. The ears are so important. And I think probably that music was there before I sought it for healing. It's almost like my intuitive self knew to go to it, which I think is probably true of many of us. Yeah. If we were lucky enough to have mom sing to us, or it was just around. So for me, listening is very, very important part. Just being with the sound, maybe being with the musician that created it. Yeah. If I have somebody live, their literal strings, my literal strings, if I'm playing guitar, or your favorite singer, your favorite artist. Yeah. Listening first. And then that's the kind of the thing, once you put those in your body, they do stay there. And our brains are so incredible that they hold on to so much of that as an artist is what helps you to then create your own. You have sort of a model. You had a relationship with this artist or the person that played to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you start going off of that and exploring.
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, it's definitely noodling. Strings are very soothing to me. And I learned that it probably was my uncle playing guitar to me and my dad playing guitar to me. And thankfully I had both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was so early on that I had that.
Yeah.
That it's when I'm creating, it's almost like I have that again. Which is why I try to encourage people, pick up a ukulele. You can learn 2 chords in a multitude of songs. And when you are connecting, the baby is connecting. When you are connecting, so I teach that. So again, that's like, be your own parent and baby, So see, I'm looping. But again, what you ask in terms of my process, it is a lot of that. It's like communing with the string and maybe even playing mantras, which is why mantras again are very healing. And just a looping sound, a looping chord, just a repeated pattern of strings that feel really good. And it's almost like, the body can do a circle as well. And that's kind of why we rock. We self-soothe when we rock.
Yeah.
So it looks like that. I'm exploring, and I'm literally healing myself. I'm literally soothing myself in the moment. And sometimes the structure comes out of that when another part of the brain shows up. Sometimes a song will come and you will want to do that work then to craft a beginning, middle, end of the song, like we do with class, a beginning, middle, end, or a healing session, a beginning, middle, end.
Yeah.
Again, a circle. Yeah, but it takes on many, many forms.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's loosey-goosey like that, and other times it's way more linear. Like I know there's an end game, or there's a specific kind of healing that we want to have happen, or a feeling that you want to have happen if it's a song that you're crafting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
They're important, different processes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you mentioned the the string instruments, I'm being reminded that for me it's the drums. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to have drums, but have worried about my neighbors being too loud for my neighbors. And it's a reminder.
Do you have drums?
I don't. I've always wanted to buy drums. It's not like the drum set. It's like the ones that you hit with the drums. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I just feel very clearly that I need to get them. And I went to a retreat. The retreat had a drum circle. This retreat was on healing from trauma. And I was so surprised that they had a drum circle because I was like, what does this have to do with healing? But I don't know why, but it worked.
You learned.
I was really into it. I was just really in tune with it. And, hearing you say, how connected you are to the string instruments and how intuitive it was, a reminder for me to actually get drums and not have to know why, but just know that it's calling me.
And you get them. Heartbeat, right? Rhythm, heartbeat. It's like we are a drum.
Yeah.
That's part of why you're connected to drums.
Yeah.
You know it in your body.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in your workshop, did they actually hand you drums? Were you all beautiful?
Mm-hmm. We're all in a circle drumming, and eventually it was like me and the instructor going back and forth because I was just like, in something
there. Yes. You had something to say. You had something to feel.
Yeah.
And you had a good teacher / facilitator.
Yes.
That was like, okay.
Yeah.
We're in a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. Wow. You know what's interesting to me too? It's like that experience is with you all the time.
It is.
And how deep that is, that whenever you pick up a drum again, with you.
That is so true.
So it's going to come out of you.
Yeah.
That's what musicians, it's why it's a lifelong thing, and why music is lifelong for all of us, whether or not we are studying it, the craft or not.
Yeah.
birthright, I feel, whatever. I mean, that word is so interesting, but it's like, I feel like it is as a human. You have a heartbeat and your voice has tonality.
Yes.
And that memory, it's like when you get your drum, because you get your drum.
Yeah.
I just want to like, bongos are great, you know, the small two different sides, because they sit right in your lap.
Yeah.
They take up a whole lot of space. They probably don't carry as much.
Do you have one right now? I feel like you were looking.
Funny enough, I do, but I gave away a bongos. I still think about that sometimes, but it's okay. Somebody really liked them, and I was like, you can take those. You know, sometimes we have that spirit in us, and we just see what someone needs, we want to satisfy it. But I do have these. These are frame drums, and they're wonderful. See, I almost want to, if I could like hand it to you. It's like I want that.
I literally feel like my blood just like becomes alive. Like, oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. You know what else? The fact that you can make the different sounds with your fingers.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I want you to have drums because And you know what's interesting too? In one of the very it's a very visceral kind of a training in music is that we always bring it back to the body. You know, people get a little bit tied into their instruments and their external, but it's like it's most powerful when you bring it back to the body and the voice. So we clap, so we tap.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Now I'm like, all right, I need to get one.
Yeah. I mean, it's already a part of you because you have that experience so much, and it probably will find its way into your healing work.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why you are feeling it and you're drawn to it.
Yes.
Because it's like it already has a life there that you just need to realize.
Yes. Yes. What I've sensed is that I'm sometimes experiencing emotions that I cannot express with words, and I need some way to channel that. That's the right expression, to channel it.
It needs a vehicle.
Exactly. So we channel through music and art and through words, but sometimes you can't even access the words. You can just access the feelings.
Oh, yes. Nonverbal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, you know, sometimes when we're the most traumatized, that's why it doesn't find its way to a word, because we're in way deeper murk than that.
Exactly.
We need to swim in it too.
Exactly.
We need to swim in it to learn how to navigate those waters.
Yeah.
And then when we're ready, it finds its way back.
Yeah.
A more verbal or a more linear sense, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something that so when you mentioned that, you know, like the memory of that experience stays with you. So if I had this really empowering experience in that drum circle, because it was empowering, I was like, oh, even though I've gone through trauma, I am seeing right now that there is something that I do really well. I'm seeing right now that there is something that speaks to me through this way, and it's very natural. Like I don't need to like learn how to do this. I already know in my body somehow how to do this. So that moment was really empowering for me.
Yeah.
You know, I loved what you highlighted about the fact that that stays with you. So in somatic healing, which is healing that incorporates the body, we call that a resource. So when you come up on something in the session, it becomes a resource for you. You can always go back to that moment, that memory, and, you know, remind yourself, oh, like my strength lives there.
Oh, yeah. You have access to that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like it being called a resource too.
Yeah.
It feels so empowering then. It's one of your tools.
Exactly.
And then I also love that it was part of your repair because you were good at it. And you said that, you know, sometimes we know that more in a child that we're trying to nurture or grow, or a student that we want to teach to be better at something, but it's really primal. You don't even have to quantify it because your hands know what to do. You know, you want to do it. Your teacher saw that, you know? Yeah. And that, I think that was probably part of your intuitive self or your connection to something eternal and bigger than you that was guiding you to your own healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about these different modalities, meaning, not medicine, these like natural modalities, is because they seem too simple to be actually effective. It's like, how
So
can
they get ridiculed
exactly.
that are way more.
Exactly. And this is the interesting thing. There is this form of healing called vibroacoustics. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
So
I'm very, yeah, go.
I tried that.
Mhm.
Had a way deep spiritual experience. Like I actually remembered my birth.
Wow, that's intense. Okay.
So there are people who are going to watch this replay, and I want to make sure that they know what we're talking about. So the experience that I had was basically lying on what seemed like a massage table. I had like headphones in, and the music was playing, and the vibrations of the music were going into my body because they were connected to the table, and I was also hearing music. So it's almost like being in my own little bubble, outside of the external world. My eyes were shut, and really just listening to music, but also having the vibrations from the music being sent into my body. And the experience was like, I don't have the words to describe.
I wonder if what you were also the mat that you were on, or since it wasn't on the ground, was it?
No, it wasn't on the ground. It wasn't a table.
About that too.
Like what I was told was that the vibrations from the music were like embedded in the table, so it was going directly in my body. And I remembered my mother giving birth to me. I was also hearing, almost like when you're tuning into a radio station, those people who aren't as woo as I am, they're going to be like, what's she talking about? So woo. So those who are woo, they're going to be.
I speak woo, and we have to woo and not woo woo. Yes, that's its own language as well.
It's almost like tuning into a radio station when you're like turning a dial.
Yes, that's so interesting that you mentioned that.
I kept hearing this woman's voice. I couldn't hear what she was saying, and it didn't sound like she was speaking to me directly. It's almost like I was like,
did you feel like you were remembering it?
No, it was a new experience.
Okay.
I was not remembering it, but I was accessing something that I don't typically access in this conscious waking experience. So afterwards, my husband was with me. Afterwards, I asked him, "Did you hear someone speaking?" And he was like, "No one was speaking."
Oh my Lord.
I was like, okay then. Well, what I walked away from that experience thinking is that we actually have guides. We actually have, these spiritual beings who might be wanting to connect with us. And it depends on our level of openness that we can hear them. Like that's what I've taken away from it.
I believe that. And I also know that people that haven't had that experience might judge it instead of staying open to somebody else might have access to something that you don't have access to.
Yeah.
But that is to their own detriment, because remaining open does mean remaining open to allowing other experiences to come in, even other feelings, whether it's a literal vibration or it's an emotional feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't totally understand why we go between the two.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that you actually heard a voice.
Yeah.
And yeah. I've heard that as well too from many people, right? Voices, certain people, their guides speak to them. And people that haven't had that, anything similar to that, can easily judge it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's plenty of experiences that I've had that I know are guidance, and I can't really articulate all of them or explain them. So to me in this moment, and even experientially, I am open to understanding that that's very real for you, That happened.
Yeah. And I brought up that example because it is music that was used as the tool for healing, you know? And so if I can pay someone, it was definitely close or over $100 for, the hour or the 45 minutes that I was having this experience. If I could pay someone for that to like be in their healing studio, why can't I listen to music in my bedroom and receive the benefits of that for free?
Yes, and create that for yourself and be the sculptor of that healing experience.
Exactly.
And that's what those of us that sit in rooms with records, because I did do that, or whatever it is, whatever modality,
Yeah.
but take the time to expand that experience, they're healing themselves. We're healing ourselves.
Yeah.
Crafting that.
Yeah.
For free, as you say. To
For
be
free.
free. Yes, to get free.
Hey Birth Warrior, I hope you've been enjoying this episode. We continue the conversation within the Birth Warrior Facebook community. It's a safe and sacred space with others on their journey to healing, to strength, and resilience. I share practices that will help you to overcome the emotional wounds that are left after loss or infertility, and whenever you're ready, tools to help you to prepare for your next pregnancy. I also host a Facebook Live and Q&A within the community every Wednesday, where I discuss the topics that are important to you. This Birth Warrior journey was not meant to be traveled alone, and you do not deserve to be suffering in silence. Check the show notes for the link to join our tribe. We're the Birth Warrior community on Facebook, and we are looking forward to seeing you.
So for, a lot of the women and the birth warriors in this community,
Yes.
what they all have in common is that they've had some really painful experience around the pregnancy journey. So whether it's having trouble conceiving or becoming pregnant but losing the pregnancy, or giving birth to an infant and eventually losing the infant. So there's like a lot of pain associated with what's expected of us, which is like motherhood and childbirth. Which is why we're having this discussion about like ways to heal.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear any recommendations that you have around ways to incorporate music.
Thank you. And I appreciate you bringing it there, because I feel very honored to know who I am speaking to, and on this particular mission, that sense of loss and that grief and healing that. And I know that mothering ourselves is pretty important, probably a pretty important metaphor for your people. And that's the initial way that I see it. So it's being your own mother and just taking the reins in that way, and knowing that I can heal you, and I can soothe you, and I can take care of you, and I'm here. So it's like that reminder, I'm here, and I know you've had that sadness and that pain, and we're going to get through it together. You're not alone. And that's, I think, some of what musicians might do by themselves, and some of what those of us that have had that loss and need to repair can do when we're taking dedicated time to sit, whether or not it's dedicated time to listen to quiet, to find a bird and listen to it, to pluck a string, even to create our own mantra, which is funny. I experience a lot of people in my classes that are self-conscious about singing, and they don't really know that they have a voice, or I feel like it doesn't sound so good. The greatest healing that happens in those spaces is when I tell moms, the baby is energetically connected to you. Your voice is magic and music, no matter what it sounds like. And that they're literally going to heal. You create that vibration for them and invite them to come into it. it's the truth, and it literally does something when they sing.
Yeah.
So they're actually mothering themselves now while they have their baby in that moment to sing to the baby, because that's its own grounding and healing. And, you can create your own mantra.
Yeah.
You can create maybe 1 or 2 words. And if you don't want words in it, because that's real too, explore a sound.
Yeah.
Explore your voice. Explore something that feels beautiful to you. And if it takes a while to find it, take a while to find it, because it is beautiful. You're a body and you have sound. And again, remember, all of us don't have that capacity. So honor that you have that capacity and have fun with it. So, and if you feel more confident with someone else that is accredited as being a good singer, or that you love their voice, listen to it, get inspired, and then turn it off. Then create it. Try it out, This is some of the greatest healing for probably any singer that you know and love. It's been a great healing for me too, to do that exploration. And then you've created something beautiful that feels really good to you. I'm sure it feels good, even if you think it doesn't sound good, but then stay in the exploration, So, and then even if you can just eke out 2 notes, go back and forth, create a little dance, create a song. And that literally can be a grounding experience, right? Because you're creating a vibration in your body.
Yeah.
And the repetition is soothing, which is why we do mantras and why we have that. This kirtan is that, bhakti yoga is that, love and repetition and then the purpose and remembering your purpose. I'm here to love you. I'm here to mother you. And if that's yourself, then that's yourself. Yeah.
I'm just going to sit in that for a moment, because all of that just felt so good. Yeah. How beautiful it is to mother ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And it actually is literally altering brain chemistry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all starts with us. It's like, I believe that our capacity to love others, it's limited or expanded by how much love we have for ourselves. So we can't go beyond the love that we have for ourselves.
That reminds me of something that you said to me too, which is and I think we both had this experience, but about it being when mothers know that they're soothing their baby, they're more apt to do the thing.
Yeah.
But then when you remind them, if you take care of yourself, you're actually soothing your baby. It's a pretty important reminder that loop is there.
Yeah.
And again, that loop is there if you are your mother.
Exactly. Exactly. When you take care of yourself, you're able to take care of others.
Yeah.
Wow. It's such a powerful reminder.
It is. And we tend to, we tend to plug into that one a little more easily.
Yeah.
So if we can see ourselves as other, maybe too, right? Or baby. Yeah, get into the love of self and the nurturing and create that. If it's not there yet, you can create that. You can create the want for yourself. And if you have to convince yourself or teach yourself that you deserve it, that's its own process too.
Yeah. Yeah. What you mentioned about, creating the mantra or, singing to yourself, I envision that could also become a resource. So when you are in this moment of like self-care and self-soothing, and you create the memory of that, and your body holds a memory of that, going through a difficult experience, you can then bring that back in. Oh, here's that song I play, or here's that song I sing, or this is how I soothe myself when it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll remember it. You'll bring it back. And it's almost like we place that little pearl inside a song that we love. We do. We are creating that. We don't call it that enough, but we're creating that healing loop for ourselves with our favorite song because we're giving it that energy.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to it again, it's going to have that energy that you put in it. So we're already in that creative process, even if we don't realize it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, creating your own sound is lovely. But also, you know, the songs that you love, notating the songs that you love, or being on a quest to find more that you love is part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. I shared with you too that the other night, I went to bed, and it was one of those days when I had like a really long day, and my body was just like a lot. You could feel like, you know, tension in my body, or I could feel tension in my body because it was such a long day. And even as I was going to bed, I'm like, I love hacks. So I love hacks for productivity and hacks for healing. I was like, all right, I am going to listen to an audiobook to program my subconscious mind. I was trying to figure out, like, what's the audiobook that I want to listen to right now. And eventually I was like, you know what? Just like go to bed.
But stop it.
And so instead, I put on music, just like soothing music.
Yeah.
And the experience was incredible. You know, so first I could feel my body become relaxed. And it was so similar to what happens in a somatic therapy session. You know, like I have people check in with their bodies, and as my body was becoming relaxed, there was like a lot of tension in my shoulders and in my knees. And I knew that I could feel that tension because everything else had softened. So what was in my body, what was in my shoulders and my knees, that was my entire body. But because everything else kind of like let go, these were the areas that still were holding, like, you know, the joint areas were still, the hinges, areas that were still holding on to a lot. And eventually even the shoulders and the knees softened. And as I continued listening, it was almost like the music just like wrapped me up.
Yeah.
And I remember like turning in my bed and just had this like smile on my face. Like I feel like I'm in heaven right now.
You had the big, you drifted off.
It was the night before I spoke to you, and I was like, this is just perfect for me to actually have the experience of this, because now I am remembering how healing music really is. And that was so simple. And
then you're learning in the moment, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like you're remembering it and it's re-happening.
Like right now.
Brand new.
Right.
Wow.
Just so simple, but also so transformative.
Yeah.
All I did was like find a playlist on Spotify to put me to bed so that I could relax. And it felt as though I was just like wrapped up in love.
And you did all of that. You did all of that.
Yeah.
See, that's where self-love is like we cannot oversay it. Because it's rediscovery. That is, we think it's selfish, and then we rediscover it, and the expansion hits you, you know. And it's not selfish. You're doing that for everybody that you know. You're doing that for your community. You're doing that for any person that you ever interact with. I mean, when you think of it that way, why ever stop, right?
Right.
Yeah. I you know, it's interesting too. It's like what you said about them being wrapped in it and feeling like you're wrapped in love. And I think that, and this might be true of a lot of people, but it's like that have had trauma very early. So maybe even as a little child, okay, so single digits. So that's, you have 9 of those, right? So those early times when you might not be able to conceptualize what it is. I am pretty sure that I had that kind of healing then, that early, because I remember once I could first conceptualize it, that's what I said, what you just described. I remember when I love music so much, and I was like, oh, more of it, because of very early traumatic experiences and probably being nurtured by a very traumatized person as well, very early. And so that does transmit, unfortunately or fortunately, because it's a human experience, you know. But I remember when I could first voice it saying, I want to live in music. Oh my God, that's really funny. I have to show you something, a book that's sitting here. I remember saying, I want to live in music.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I remember even thinking that it had color, right? Blue and purple and green, all the peacock colors and maybe the blue colors, but I just wanted to live in it. And that was the description. I just want to always be in it. But I'm saying that I have a book here, which is, I don't know, copyright things. Anyway, you know, I love this book, and it's an Entozaki Shange poem. It's a great book.
Mm-hmm.
And the art is Romare Bearden, which is really beautiful.
Yeah.
But that notion, that I think that's why that resonates. Literally, that sentence resonates because it speaks before the words, beyond the words.
Yeah.
Before we had them, and we were able to kind of figure out how to capture it.
Yeah.
Existing inside that love.
Yeah.
Existing inside that love that wraps you up, that nurtures you, that you vibrate with healing and care.
Oh.
Yeah. And we figured the words to that out later, you know.
Right. Wow.
Feeling was there first. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where this has taken me back to is, the creator of the music, so that person had to embody that energy or that vibration in order to create that.
Yes.
And that's the resonance, right? Like in this moment,
Oh my God.
wanting inner peace. And in another moment, if I'm wanting a way to hold my sadness, then it's the musician who felt the sadness, created that so that I could resonate with it and feel held by it.
They felt it, which is almost why you felt it.
Yeah.
That was on a resonance level that was deep. I also firmly believe that the reason why we put musicians on such pedestals sometimes that we don't understand. We think we do. We're giving it away maybe, or they're just so great and we like what they do. But I do really feel like there's a transmission. So there's that transmission of something that we can't name,
Right.
can't frame,
Right.
but they're sharing literally themselves with you.
Yeah.
There's a way, because music travels on those pathways,
Yeah.
those vibrational pathways where I'm actually able to share a piece of myself with you. I might be actually able to share with you my sadness that I lived and experienced.
Yeah.
But then my healing and the pathway out of that sadness.
Yeah.
And I often say to parents that I have with the children in my classes, I often say to them, giving them this gift very early is wonderful because it teaches them the pathway out of sadness. You don't get stuck.
Yeah.
You have your depression, you can have your blues.
Yeah.
But music teaches you a way to move through them. And I would venture to say that parenting ourselves, as you're doing and talking about, and healing ourselves is that process,
Yeah.
giving us a path, out of it.
Yeah. And we're only seeing, not even seeing, we're only being guided to the next step. Meaning, like going to a doctor, your doctor might prescribe you something, right? And they might say, oh, this is what we expect this drug to do. It might work, it might not work. They might also be using their best guess as to what's happening in your body for them to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
I think with these like more gentler, natural, holistic forms, you don't even see the full picture. There is no promise at the end. There's nothing that says you're going to be healed, like infertility is going to be healed, or challenges in pregnancy is going to be healed, but you're feeling guided to the next step. And I think just by following that, just like you're saying, you're going on the pathway.
Yeah.
It's this process of trusting yourself and trusting life and God, if that's a part of your belief system, and the universe.
It's a journey.
a journey, right? Just trusting that that's the next step. And if it feels good and right, just follow that first step and see what else shows up as the next step. Wow.
Yeah.
I love this conversation so much.
I do too. And you know what? Yeah. And it's like co-creating, right? Because, and then there's a space we get to be in, which is, it's knowing that there's a way out.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's a path out, and then knowing that you have the tools to create it.
Yeah.
And you know, the power to do that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we don't realize how powerful we really are.
We don't.
Yeah. And then, of course, I guess we'd be the most powerful when it comes to ourselves.
Yeah. Right. Who knows us better than ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why does it make sense that I am so into drumming? I don't know.
You know.
Right. My conscious mind doesn't know, but my body knows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
You feel it. All that information that feeling gives us,
Exactly.
which is somatics, and which is vibration, and
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
and how we create music.
Yeah. Yeah.
We probably don't even know, you know, what is music really? Even the word is, right?
Yeah.
We partially understand it, but our deeper self understands it.
Right. Wow. So I feel like for anyone who is currently watching or is going to watch the replay, in terms of like guidance, it really is like listening to their inner guidance.
Right.
You know, like for me, it's been creating playlists. So when I'm in my sadness, I do go to my sad playlists. You know, I'm what I learned yesterday was that if I'm feeling really tense in my body, just playing music, it didn't have any words, it was just the music, just the instrumentals, just playing that is really healing for me and really rebalancing for me. And maybe for other people, it might be humming or chanting or
Right.
taking a walk while listening to music, dancing to music.
Yes. What might it be?
Exactly.
Listen.
It's really listening to our wisdom. Yeah. And for you, it's playing music. It's going to your stringed instruments.
Yeah. Yeah. So grateful for strings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all goes back to this trust within our bodies and this trust to listen to ourselves, even if it doesn't make sense to the conscious mind, even if we don't know why, just trusting that that's what we're guiding, what we're being guided to, and allow ourselves to explore it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like allow. I like the allowance.
Yeah.
Because it's open
Exactly.
and you can discover it.
Exactly.
I'm
Anything
grateful. I'm really
Wow.
I'm so happy to be in the conversation, because, you know, it's like even talking about healing
Mm-hmm.
and then imagining that is in effect that in
Yeah.
the moment.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's helpful for babies. It's helpful for bonding between parent and baby. It's helpful when babies are in utero. Why wouldn't it be helpful for us right now, even
Before
before conception,
yes.
in this process of mothering ourselves and healing ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much to say.
Yes.
Hear and feel. Yeah.
Anything else that is bubbling up for you? Anything else that's on the surface that you'd like to we
Well, I think right now it's so funny. It's and I love that you said on the surface, because then that gives me something to think about. I do get very dreamy, and I'm feeling about a lot of things. I'm feeling about the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about vibration. It's like even as I'm talking, I'm thinking more consciously about the sound and the feeling of my voice coming out of my body. And remembering how healing that really is, even to hear my voice right now, to be given the gift of you inviting me here to get to do this and share some of my thought processes and feeling processes with everyone.
Yeah.
Just a lot of gratitude, but it's almost like I'm literally feeling gratitude because there's sound coming out of my voice. Isn't that amazing? And I'm just feel grateful to be gifted with the reminder too, because just the reminder and to be in this hour-long process is dreamy.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you. Well, thank you for
You're welcome.
being here, and thank you for doing. And I know that you're stepping. Well, tell me or tell us where you're transitioning into. You've shared before that there is other forms of work that's calling you right now. So share more about that in case there's anyone who might be able to benefit from it.
Some of that is the technology thing. I have to get on board with that, so I have to open that channel. In terms of that and being able to share that more. Just studying the chakras, and a lot of people have done that already, that there's a key to each one. I'm loving that as that's opening up, because the channel has been very, very, very open for me as a musician, of the ones that don't have words necessarily, or don't even necessarily have a chord to them. I feel a lot of things, right? So, getting to ground that is exciting, and understanding that more. And the greatest thing in the world is just doing it in person and doing in that loop. And weirdly enough, in terms of the technology thing, I'm learning that there's a way to bring it in and to harmonize technology with this experience. So I have a lot of classes online, and it's actually working.
Nice.
So I'm exploring all of that. I have resistance to all of it, and even the screen, but this is great because I actually feel like I'm really me in my body, talking to Natalie for real, even though there's a screen there. So, those are some of the next steps for me in figuring that out. And this is a good step on that. And just learning what all of that is, because the feeling world, again, is very enormous for me, and then actually making it concrete so I can share it more and synthesize those things so that people can understand it and use it for themselves. And even the process that you gave me is part of that. It's really very helpful in terms of the conversation about the healing, because in my history, I teach at a music school now. So I did a lot of healing work, and then I taught at a music school. So now I've brought it down to the notes and sharing people, what ear training we're doing, and what key it is, and what tonality it is, and time signature, and how all those things develop the different parts of the brain. And I love that. And then in that conversation, I try to bring in with them some of the more of the healing work. So it's interesting that maybe in a healing capacity, you could be sharing with people a key signature, or the beginnings of actually putting an instrument in their hand, or understanding what they're doing with a ukulele or two notes out of their body, So again, looping those things together and figuring out how to share them in both worlds.
Something just sparked in my thoughts. It means that for people who have gone through trauma and have felt as though they have lost their voice, singing or using their voice, being able to hear their voice and open up this throat chakra would be helpful for them.
So much.
So do you ever do that kind of one-to-one work, or is it mostly?
I have, and I'll tell you, there's been a metaphysical aspect to teaching voice to people, because I know that we're communing with each other. I've seen it. I've even seen it proved to me when I thought someone probably had not the best ear, and I knew there was a healing aspect of them singing, so I encouraged them to still just do it, but I didn't quite know if they were actually going to be able to match my pitch. And I've seen it happen, literally happen. So it's almost like I've noticed real healing in a music lesson, but I did actually literally on the ground, in terms of the music development, that people were able to match pitch and actually develop their ear where people thought they didn't have an ear. and they couldn't carry a tune, and they actually did learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And then I could see in the class that people are actually developing that in communing with me, in us singing together. And I didn't have all the necessary words for it to understand it on the brain level.
Yeah.
But again, those experiences have stayed with me.
Right.
So when I understand the healing more and the language of the healing, even the science of it, it kind of plugs in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love what you're saying.
Yeah. What I've experienced and this is just a few months ago, is when I ended up not working with her because we couldn't sync schedules and vibrationally it just wasn't aligning. But I knew that the reason why I wanted to work with her, it wasn't that I wanted to learn how to sing. It was that I wanted a safe space to open my voice.
You know what? You saying that just triggered something for me too, which is also why I kind of started traveling, is because I could take it for granted that I can sing or that I wanted to. Because of course I wanted to before anyone told me I could.
Yeah.
Like if you want to and you have the freedom somehow, maybe when you can first make sounds, thankfully, then maybe you can bypass the point where someone says you can't sing or you don't sound good. I mean, that breaks my heart more than anything. The ways that we stunt each other, a teacher can stunt, a parent can stunt, a person can stunt another person. But you reminded me that because I love to sing before I thought about it, but that's a gift to share. And what you said, I'm like, yeah, I've heard so many people say I can't, or that they have the fear, or they just shut themselves down and just don't do it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part probably about even being in a voice lesson with somebody and watching them grow, or being with a parent and watching them grow their voice when they know that the baby is going to benefit no matter what you sound like.
Yeah.
It makes them do it, and then guess what? They're healing themselves.
Yeah.
But it's a good reminder what you said, because you could forget that part.
Yeah.
You're able to do it, or you've already been open. Someone else might not be open.
Right.
And so that's an important step. And I think that was a great step that you took.
Yeah.
You knew enough to know that you needed somebody to make it okay, or to tell you that you could, or give you permission, I guess, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So helpful.
Yeah, it really was. The transformation that I've noticed within myself just in these past few months, it was during COVID time. So a few months ago, is that I've been singing in the shower, and I always sing in the shower. It's just like how high I go.
Yeah.
My throat chakra has opened up, meaning I'm going to higher, I don't know the technical term if it's like pitch, but I'm going to higher levels. And I'm not concerned about my neighbors. I haven't heard anyone complain, but I'm like,
you're not thinking about it anymore?
Not for the drumming, I'm still thinking about it, but for the shower, I'm like not thinking about it. It's
You're
like
feeling about it.
hopefully you like the sound of my voice, but whether or not, this is the shower and I must sing.
That's the best. I'm so glad you must do it.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes. But I knew that something was healed in all of the healing work that I've been doing using different modalities, because I was able to open up more.
Because you experienced it.
The stuckness wasn't there and the fear wasn't there. So I'm saying all of that to say, if someone listening right now has been thinking, I really wish I could find the space to sing, I really wish I could get some voice lessons, it might be a really important part of your healing. So if you're feeling that guidance, go for it.
Go for it.
Yes. Do it.
I mean, you know what? Also, I mean, as we do, I am just like struck by you saying that you removed fear. How powerful is that?
Yeah.
To remove fear.
Yeah.
That could be the difference between, you know, or the journey of someone starting to remove their fears.
Right. Right. And I don't even know when it happened. I don't know what I was doing that led to it happening. But in my voice, I knew when a lot of it was gone. And maybe there are like higher levels that I could sing and more ways that I could open my voice.
Higher notes, higher levels.
Right. But it means that in all of the work that I've been doing, something transformed, and that was the marker for me, hearing my voice in a different way.
And that can change forever.
Right.
That can keep changing because you can keep singing.
Right. 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 Ah, such a powerful conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that we would go so deep.
But maybe you did somewhere. Who knows? I think you had a feeling that it would be beneficial,
Yeah.
Obviously you did, because I'm also hearing that I am not the first step on your moving towards musical journey. Hello, there's already been drums, there's already been singing. You already knew to get guidance to have a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So you knew.
Yeah. So my father used to sing in the shower all the time when I was growing up in Jamaica, and my father had a beautiful voice. So I think he gave me permission to be a shower singer, if that's the official name.
Shower, etc. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to not go on more tangents because I could.
No, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, tell me.
We get 2 hours.
We might have to make this a podcast episode and split it into like a part 1 and a part 2 because we're going.
Girl, you know what? It would be my pleasure and my honor. I love that, because the act of speaking is its own power, right? I mean, words sound power in hip hop, right? Yeah. That's it. The act of speaking, it's power, and powerful, and then it speaks things into being, and we become them. So we're doing that in the process. Yeah. Amazing.
How blessed it is for us to be able to like have this conversation about the magic of music, the magic and the power of music. Yeah.
We're lucky to know it. We're lucky to already be on that. We're lucky to have opened that channel.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad for any shutting down of that channel.
Yeah.
If someone does it to themselves or an institution does it to a people, because all of that's happened. Yeah. But it also reminds you back to the source and back to the beginning, or certain beginnings, why drums were so important, right? Why drums were connected to liberation and a path out of bondage.
Yes. Wow. I feel like we could have several of these conversations just going into the instruments and what they represent and how they speak to our soul. Like it
we can, because they all have personalities.
Right.
So, and any of my teachers have shared that with me, which is why I even feel and know it and can almost want to jump up and down when you say that. I'm like, there's the cowbell, then there's the shakeré, then there's the conga drum, then there's the hand drum, and the flute, the life of the flutes, the spirit in the flute. Oh my gosh, flute players will tell you about the spirit in their flute. And it connects to the spirit of the breath.
Okay, we need to dive in. And their personality, because it's a whole new world, and I feel like
the flute,
make that statement and then end the conversation. We have to go.
How do we do that?
The instruments and their personalities. Where to start?
I know. It's like that's a lot, and they have that. I mean, it's also why there are certain cultures that have a. Sometimes I do my own form of that. To be truthful, I do. Blessings to the instruments. Blessings to the drum. And again, I was actually on a call yesterday that I realized I did not know what land that I'm on, and everybody on the call was talking about the land. And I should have known that before today so I could say that. Yeah. Because even while being on Zooms, it's like I have somebody that guided me in even the blessing of this space and putting a bowl of water and and actually it's something that I kind of do internally, but I could have voiced. So I don't know the people whose land I'm on, which I should know, in terms of even starting to think about the indigenous and the way that they will bless a drum, Yeah. And Africans often bless drums and personality of the instruments, of the flutes. Yeah. It's just cultural, right? I mean, that's just the honoring of the life that was, again, put into the instrument that you're taking out of it, that loop that we were talking about, and on a spirit level and on a feeling level, but it's on a spirit level. It's ancient, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very old.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the drums represent liberation.
Yeah. Well, it was a path,
Got it.
Yeah, and again, that's the indigenous mind, right? That we actually, those of us that are on that path, are in that conversation of getting back there, and making sure to fill in the gaps that we left behind, trying to survive in this particular paradigm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the flute, you mentioned the connection with the breath, which is so important. The breath brings us back to our body. I feel like the breath is the connection to spirit and the body. I don't know why, that's what just came to me. Like it brings us to our body, but it's also the connection from spirit.
Well, doesn't it even seem like, if you think about it, if you think about the I'm thinking of the body parts, I'm thinking of the esophagus or the throat or all those things. It's like you're thinking of a channel, right? And oftentimes even the chakras like move up, right, and beyond our head, right? So it's like, that's why I think you're naturally envisioning that column, right? Because we don't end here.
Right.
We know we don't end here. And we know we have an auric field, right?
Right.
So, and the auric field does connect to the infinite and to the universe.
Yeah.
So you're just intuiting that. Yeah. And isn't it amazing that, so it's like our voice is one of the vessels and one of the vehicles, right? That we're opening up to the heavens and bringing it through and grounding it then, even in our ceremonies and our rituals, down to the ground through our base chakra and through our root chakra.
Right.
It's like we are connected to the infinite.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And that's even thinking about vibrating on the air. That's part of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know something else that just came up for me is that you are either have been or are currently studying herbalism. I know it's separate from music, but
they go together. Because
okay, so we'd love to hear more about that.
Lord.
Or any of our listeners right now who might benefit from that connection,
Well, that would be another hour and a half for me.
Wow.
It really would, because it just would.
Yeah.
But well, plants exist in vibrational state as well.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
So that's just opening up that door of exploration. And then there are, that's enormous. And I have a teacher and she's wonderful. And, man, I will shout her out. I should shout her out. She's in Brooklyn. Her name is Karen Rose.
I follow Karen.
She's a master herbalist.
Yes.
She's a dream. And she is very in tune. And I have to shout her out because the convergence of that vibrational state that plants exist in, and the one that exists in our body, and the ones that we create with sound, those are all conversations that are happening concurrently.
Yeah.
So, even learning how to use the herbs, learning how to have a conversation with the herbs in your own vibration is a universe.
Wow.
It's a universe to start communing with the plants and communing with their healing properties. And so I'm sure that I will continue to learn how they intersect, because they are definitely harmonizing and and expanding, you know. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
And we'll probably do a little fraction of it in this lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I think we might need to close for now because we're going to leave a very long recording for someone to read.
I hope they appreciate.
I'm sure they will.
If and I hope I don't ramble too much.
No, this was juicy and really, really helpful. And I feel like enlightening for people who haven't explored music as a form of healing or who have overlooked the benefits of it.
And it is my dream and my hope that we gave them literal, tangible tools, because I can get dreamy and floaty, right?
I think we did.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, we talked about playlists. We talked about, I think the theme was like mothering the self and being guided, following the guidance. So if you're not into music, that's totally fine.
That's an inner listening and an outer listening.
Exactly. Listening to you're being guided to.
And singing in the shower.
Singing in the shower.
Out of the shower. All of those explorations.
Yes. Yes.
It's a blessing to know you. I'm very happy.
Same here.
So we'll continue our conversation.
Same here. How can people keep in touch with you if someone would like to explore?
Well, I am on Facebook. That's sort of why I was sort of opening that tangent, because I feel apologetic and not using it that much. But I'm there. I am there. And I am also on Instagram.
Okay.
And, it's Shoshana Vox. So it says Vox, V-O-X for voice. But so it's there. I mean, I can be reached. I'm on Facebook. It's Shoshana Vogel, and I'm on Instagram. And I do private voice lessons, and I do parent-child classes, and I'm doing some of those on the Zoom. Yes. So that's interesting. And I am developing more of a web presence because I have to do it. But I've just sort of resisted it. Yeah. Probably as long as I possibly could, because it's, life is moving on.
Yeah.
And we're on screens.
Yeah, I think most of us were just waiting for, COVID to be a thing of the past, but it's still here.
It's still here. And we have to live.
Right. The experience we're going through is still here. So we're learning.
I firmly believe that spirit is pushing us for a reason.
Yeah.
To harmonize. And so some of us that are very vigilant, we probably will keep it on the ground. But we're not going to become a computer anytime soon. And maybe none of us will. So that's my hope.
So for those, because we might make this a podcast, spell your name so that anyone who's listening can find you on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, it's Shoshana, Shoshana, and the last name is Vogel. It means bird. It's Vogel.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to end the broadcast for now. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you to
Speak.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, so that was our interview, and I'm so grateful to Shoshana for spending the time, for sharing so much wisdom and so much of who she is in that conversation. And while we're coming to a close, I invite you to give yourself a moment to see what has bubbled up for you. What insights are here for you. What I love about using music and voice in healing is that we get to spend time with it. We get to really go in with this spirit of discovery and exploration, so that if something really resonates with us, we get to give ourselves the permission to explore it. Even if it doesn't make sense, we at least get to give ourselves the permission to explore it. And from our conversation, what came up is that it's really our intuition that's trying to communicate to us. It's really our intuition that is trying to show us the way to arrive at beauty to arrive at our own inner healing. And so, until next time, Birth Warrior, stay strong and know that strength can often come from gentleness. I love you and I so appreciate you, and we will reconnect next time.